Good afternoon, and welcome to all of you who are taking the time to join the Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs Women Veterans Program today for this important discussion. Our Women Veterans Program is dedicated to ensuring that Kentucky's 25,000 women veterans are recognized and that they receive all the benefits and services that they have earned. Women are veterans of every conflict and peacetime military effort of the United States since before World War II. And they face the same risk as their male counterparts in today's military operations. However, women veterans face unique challenges and are far less likely than their male counterparts to seek and receive the veterans' benefits and services that they have earned. Women have proudly served this country since before we were a country, whether disguised as male soldiers during the Revolutionary and Civil War, as nurses in World War I, or as combat pilots in Afghanistan. Women have formerly been a part of the U.S. Armed Forces since the inception of the Army Nurse Corps in 1901. Unfortunately, it was not until after World War II that the Women's Armed Services Integration Act of June 12, 1948 enabled women to serve as permanent members of the armed forces and to be officially recognized as veterans. Kentucky honors the tremendous sacrifice our women in uniform have made to defend our beloved country. The valor and devotion to duty demonstrated by current and past servicewomen have paved the way for future generations. For the past 2 years, I've recognized June 12th as Women's Veterans Day in Kentucky. I'm going to do so again this year, and I hope the General Assembly will pass a bill enshrining that day into law. Our Women Veterans Program continues to collaborate with the United States Department of Veterans Affairs, state and local governments, and community organizations to coordinate events and to raise awareness of the needs of Kentucky women, minority, and underserved veteran populations. This event today will help identify and assess the gaps, identify the challenges, and define solutions. So I look forward to hearing about this open discussion and how we can continue to support our women veterans. Have a great meeting today. I look forward to continuing this important work. Most importantly, thank you all for your military service and for helping us build a better Kentucky.
Good afternoon. I am pleased and honored to welcome all of you to this open discussion about women veterans. From the beginning, the women who contributed to Kentucky's successes have had women veterans at their side. Even when these heroes were not acknowledged, this group has remained dedicated to the women who have served and sacrificed for our country. Women veterans make up about 5% of our population in the Commonwealth, and that number continues to grow. And while we've made great progress, challenges continue for these women who have bravely chosen to serve. I am proud to see women veterans working together to overcome and bring much needed change. Women veterans have served our Commonwealth and our country for more than 2 centuries. I hope that during Women's History Month and all year round, we can step up for these heroes in return. Thank you for being a part of Team Kentucky.
Panel. Today we have 5 phenomenal, fierce women veterans advocates. I've had the privilege to either work or collaborate with them over the years, and I will tell you that they are the best talent, best advocates for the Commonwealth. Please know that today is an open environment, open, safe environment, so that anything goes. Ask the hard questions. Or bring up the issues and challenges that is on your mind with our panelists. Because what we're going to do is, if we can't find the answer, we will find it. If we have the answer, we'll take it and apply the solutions to everyday challenges that women veterans face here in the Commonwealth. We definitely want to use this forum to build on the momentum leading into our Women Veterans State Conference in June, and more details from Ms. Addie later on today, as well as bringing it into the overall State Commanders Conference in September, and including KDVA's strategic plan and objectives. But definitely, this is an issue or issues and challenges that women veterans face that need to be addressed today, and not just for the month of March, which is Women's Veterans History Month, but 24/7. And it's not just discussions, it's finding solution and implementing it. So thank you all for joining in, and especially my allies, my fellow guys, my fellow mansplainers. You're a part of this discussion as well, because we're one team, one fight. and we will need you to work with our women veteran teammates to carry this torch and tackle these issues and challenges. On that, please join the panel, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Maddox. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You inspire everyone here at KDVA, not only with your support, but you lead the way in every way. And thank you for getting this session or this event today for us. I appreciate it. So next up, our rock star, Kentucky Department of Veteran Affairs Deputy Commissioner Lanice Thorpe Knoll. She is a recently retired Command Sergeant Major, and trust me when I say she is all that and then some. We're very fortunate to have DC Knoll here at KDVA. So let's get this hour underway. KDVA's Deputy Commissioner Lanice Knoll, moderator for today's discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Addie. You are so very kind. And I promise you all, I didn't tell her I'd buy her lunch for a month, but thank you so much for the warm introduction. As she said, I am your moderator today. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for joining us today as we engage in discussion on challenges and issues on women veterans face. Today, panelists are extraordinary women who are pillars in their community, dedicated and committed to making a difference for all women veterans. We appreciate their willingness to join us in conversation on such a significant topic. Let me briefly introduce each one of our speakers today. The panelists, Representative Pamela Stephenson, U.S. Air Force retired veteran. Representative Stephenson is a member of the Kentucky House of Representatives, representing District 43. She served in the U.S. Air Force for 27 years and reached the rank of colonel. Representative Stephenson earned a JD from Indiana University. Her career experience includes working as an adjunct professor with the University of Louisville, Brandeis School of Law and Air Force JAG School as a professional leadership consultant and founding a law firm. Next, we have Dr. Erin Myers. Dr. Myers, U.S. Air Force veteran, mother of 3 children, and founder and CEO of Evolve Coaching, the leadership evolution, where she redefines leadership for post-pandemic era so leaders can accomplish all their goals without negatively impacting their quality of life. Mrs. Stacy Norris, Deputy Chief, Mental Health Officer, and Lead Women Veteran Program Manager at VA Mid-South Healthcare Network. Mrs. Norris is a licensed clinical social worker. She received her Bachelor of Science with a major in Women's Studies and Criminology and her Master's of Social Work from Florida State University. Mrs. Grace Williams, U.S. Army retired veteran, currently positioned as the Senior HR Business Partner, Consumer Energy and Cultural PTR Consumer Energy. Mrs. Williams brings a rich variety of military and civilian experience as a retired citizen soldier, a soldier for life, as well as a robust professional career working in human resources. That's just a little bit on our panelists. I want to remind you that we are going to be monitoring the chat box. And if you have any comments and or questions, please place them there in our chat box. We will do our best to get to as many questions or address comments as the time will allow. But before we get to your questions, we'll allow each of our speakers to make brief comments on their experience in the positions that they currently serve in. Thank you. Representative Pam Stephenson, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited anytime we can enhance, enlighten, and lift up military veterans, because what I've learned is we learn to live for something bigger than self in defending America, and we take it for granted. Not everybody does that. Most of the time they don't. So that we bring something special and unique to the state of Kentucky is undeniable. I love serving people. I love the fact that I'm serving a district that is in Louisville. And I love the fact that we're going to move Kentucky from the bottom of all these lists to the top because our families deserve it. Every child needs to grow up and be loved. Every family needs to thrive, and we're the people to do it. So I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. And I'm just so thankful to be able to have a voice and to be able to share my experience transitioning from the Air Force to the wonderful Commonwealth of Kentucky, and dealing with all the issues that I've dealt with along the way. Everything from IVF, which is prominent among women veterans, to starting my own business, getting that certification as a veteran-owned business and women-owned business, all the way through to mental health issues, sexual trauma, and everything else. So I'm very excited to have this discussion and to have this safe space to be able to do exactly what Representative Stevenson just said, really lift each other up and really put Kentucky at the forefront of all of these issues.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Stacy Norris.
Well, I want to echo what everyone else said. I am super excited to be here, and what an honor to be included in this panel. I'm the only one on here that's not a veteran. I'm the daughter of an Army veteran. My dad was a LRP in Vietnam, and I came to the VA, actually at Louisville VA, started over 16 years ago, really a little bit selfishly to learn a little bit more about him and the struggles that he went through and how that impacted our family, but always had a passion for women veterans. And I feel really lucky to be here. As Erin said, IVF, oh my goodness, these are big issues and questions: sexual assault, military sexual trauma. I'm hoping today, if anyone has questions or thoughts or concerns that they want to share with me, as we look at veterans health care and what we're trying to be more inclusive, what we're meeting or not meeting. It's safe to say it, and I'm just so delighted to be here. So thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Grace Williams. Mrs. Williams? Okay.
Let me check on her. Yeah, she's muted.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Can you see me?
Yes, we're good to go. We can hear you and see you.
Okay, great. So I had technology difficulty, and that's another topic that I think we all need to be aware of, is how technology is impacting our worlds these days, and keeping up and maintaining our skill sets in those areas, thinking about Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and all that goes along with that. I am truly excited to be here. After I had the best of both worlds as a citizen soldier. I was in the Army National Guard, retired major. And so I had the ability to see both sides. And so I hope there's an opportunity to share those experiences with you as women veterans who are coming out, or women who are transitioning into the civilian work world. I think it's an exciting time, and I'd like to be a part of sharing that with you. So thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to our conversation.
Thank you very much. Actually, before we get into the questions, I do have I wanted to give a few seconds, a couple of minutes to Mrs. Rebecca Willis Nichols. She's on the line right now. She's from Governor's Challenge, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about that and what they do. Ms. Nichols, are you there?
I am. Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate the opportunity to just share a little bit with this group, another initiative that KDVA is spearheading that have women veterans as part of their priority area. So the Kentucky Department of Veterans Affairs is collaborating with the VA and the state of Kentucky to create a statewide strategic plan related to suicide prevention that will have a component of women veterans as part of that. Moving forward, the task force has evolved into an executive board with priority areas that will be embedded into the state strategic 5-year plan. And so there's an opportunity to keep women veterans as part of the discussion as related to suicide prevention, but also as related to lethal means safety and safety planning, as part of screening, as part of connectedness. And so this is a real opportunity moving forward. I hope that you guys will keep your ears out moving in that direction. There's going to be some lethal means safety work that happens statewide where there'll be an opportunity to talk about women veterans and set some priority areas for them. So I just appreciate being a part of the conversation and wanted to give you all a sneak peek about things to come. Addie is a part of that task force with us. I know that she's spending her time, rightfully so, here today, but we keep her in the loop and we appreciate her support, along with Deputy Commissioner Noel and Commissioner Allen. And so any questions for the Governor's Challenge and some of the work that they're going to be focused on in this year to come? All right, well, I'll be sure to keep Addie updated, and she can keep this group updated as moving forward and just be a part of the process. Thank you again.
I have a quick question. Rebecca, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
So how will the task force be working towards, like what will be different about women and suicide prevention?
It's a really good question. I'm glad you're asking that. So we have representation on the task force. So we have representation on what is going to be the executive board moving forward. And those SMEs, those subject matter experts, are going to be part of creating the statewide strategic plan. And so each of them will serve on one of the 5 priority areas moving forward where they're able to create some action items. So stay tuned. I don't know what those are going to be because they haven't been created yet. And then this afternoon, we'll create an action plan focused on lethal means safety. There's a lot of work being done in the state related to firearm safety, the 988 Veterans Crisis Line rollout, opiate use disorder. And so the action plan will be created this afternoon. So I don't know, stay tuned, but a good question.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for joining us and stopping by. I know you in a meeting right now, you have some things going on, so we look forward to talking more with you. Thank you very much for stopping in. Okay, panelists, ladies, we are now ready to get to the questions. Okay, here's my question for all of you. What challenges and/or issues have you faced in your current role as a woman veteran or serving women veterans? Okay, can we start off with Mrs. Grace Williams? Unmute.
As I reflect back on my 26 years of service and starting my career in the late 70s, when I was the first, I was actually the first woman in my engineer unit in the Army National Guard in my hometown. And so with that came all of the challenges that comes with gender equity, you know, male and female, balancing those relationships, you know, being heard, being understood as a leader, as my male counterparts. And you know, just finding out information, right? It's really important that we know that the military is a career, that in that career, it's a job, and we need to make sure that we're providing ourselves with as much knowledge and opportunity as we possibly can throughout the military. And I think the military is such a great place for building our capacity and our skill sets when we transition out, or when that opportunity comes for us to transition, or if we're planning to stay for a long, full career in the military, we need to take advantage of those opportunities. And so I think the other challenge is just making sure you know what's available for you and the resources that are available for you.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Norris?
I think that actually plays perfectly into one of the biggest challenges that I've run into, which is just ensuring that we have facilities. I'm thinking from coming into VA, you know, building an environment and a culture that is inclusive and safe for women veterans, where they feel like they're walking through the door and that it's reflective of who they are and the experiences that they've had. And as everyone I think can probably attest to on this call, that's kind of new to VA, and it's work that still needs to be done. So the challenging part I found is ensuring that we have the resources available, that everyone is knowledgeable, and that we build an environment of inclusivity. And it's an uphill battle, and we are still working through it. And I'm proud of the strides we've made, but still have a lot more work to go.
Thank you. Dr. Myers.
Right. First off, I want to say, Stacy, the work that you have done in the VA, I'm sure you recognize my name because I can't tell you how many times I called the women's clinic when I was going through IVF and everything else that I was dealing with. But the support that you have created is just wonderful. I love walking into that Newburgh Women's Clinic, seeing the lactation room, all of the maternity, that giant box that came in for all 3 of my pregnancies. I mean, each one, and then the baby showers that you have. I mean, it's just been incredible. You have been so supportive. So I want to applaud you first off for the work that you have done. Is there still room? Absolutely. But you guys have made so many changes and it's beautiful. So thank you for that. And then to answer the original question, the 3 main areas, and I kind of touched on these before, that I really personally struggled with were, number one, my transition from the Air Force. That was the hardest thing for me. So I was geographically landlocked to the Louisville area based on my spouse's job. And so I wanted to stay close to him because we had been geographically separated in the military for 5 years out of 6 years that we were married in the military together. And so we didn't want to do that again. We knew we wanted to start a family and make that transition. So I was landlocked to Louisville, and I kept getting job denial after job denial after job denial because I was overeducated and underexperienced. The ability for people to understand the transferable skills that I had, and granted, I will take full credit in my inability to successfully communicate that as well. A lot of that's education on the part of the veteran also, but their inability to understand the transferable skills as well. And I took full advantage of the GI Bill and worked on my PhD while I was active duty, and that actually negatively impacted me. I thought it would make my transition easier. I would have that educational experience to help back my military transition, and it did not. It negatively impacted me because then I lacked the experience, but was overeducated. So I was intimidating in that front. And what do you do with a woman veteran who has a PhD? We don't even want to touch her. It's kind of the feedback that I got. And so I had consulting opportunities land on my lap and the opportunity to become what I like to refer to as an accidental entrepreneur. And I'm so happy for my ability to have the Small Business Association support associated with veterans, fortunately, to create that opportunity for myself. But that was definitely an issue. The second issue was, once we did decide to start a family, the fertility issues that I've referenced, and going through IVF, there is a significant number, and Stacy, you might know the actual percentage, but I want to say it's hovering right around 1/3 of all women veterans have fertility issues. Yeah, I think it's 34%. Yeah, Stacy's nodding her head, which is a significant difference than the average female throughout the United States. And so there's obviously some correlation there. And I know the Air Force is working hard. I'm sure the other branches are as well, to figure out what that correlation is. But we need to provide that support. When I was going through my issues, the only thing that the VA would provide, and I am thankful for, what they could in the moment, was an IUI, or an intrauterine insemination. But then anything above and beyond that was all out of pocket for us. So all of that fertility expense was out of pocket. It was not covered by civilian insurance or anything else as well. And so that's definitely something that I believe we need to speak more openly about and understand. And then the third bit is the mental health. So I never had any mental health issues when I was in the military, but I did break during COVID, and I actually had a complete breakdown, was crying, picking up the phone to the VA to ask for help. And I'm so thankful for the support that they gave me. But I literally asked the VA psychologist, I'm like, why have I been through so much in the military? And now suddenly I feel like I have PTSD. And the answer was because there is a correlation between, what we had experienced in the military and everything else. And it doesn't matter what causes the break. It happens eventually, and that needs to be recognized and supported as well. And so I know there are many, many, many other women veterans out there who had some sort of mental break during COVID and other situations. And that needs to be spoken about more frequently. So mine was postpartum depression and anxiety in particular. And I'm so thankful for the VA and the support. Yes. So no, Stacy, you're adding in there. Yeah. Reproductive mental health has become a critical need for women's veterans. Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Well,
Okay. I'm done.
No, we thank you. We're going to go to Representative Stevenson. The floor is yours.
Thank you. One of the things that I like talking about when it concerns women veterans is this. We've seen the last 2 years as a problem, pandemic, the racial issues, and the weather and animals, the climate control, all the stuff that's happening to us as human beings has a definite impact on women and women veterans. I see it as an opportunity to reinvent ourselves. It's already messed up. So why would we go back to normal that wasn't working? Let's create power in the disruption. And one of the ways we do that is look at, well, what have we been doing and what could we create? When I went in the military, we didn't have pregnancy uniforms. I had to unzip my pants. When I was in the military, whenever I PCS into a new place, they would say, if you have cramps, don't call in with cramps, call in and say you're having a heart attack. Do anything, but don't identify anything with being a woman as a reason not to come to work. And so we've created this environment where women are taught, you either get along and go along, or you will not be in this man's military. Here's the impact of that. It's on our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
That stress has to go somewhere. It's on our living. When the military women check out of the transition out of the military, they know they don't have a place to live. They take their kids and they go in their cars and they say, yes, sir, thank you, sir, and they become homeless. Who does that? Except us. So we have to shift the context of who we are before we start building more programs. There are a lot of great programs out there, lots of great programs. And they're all inside the context that has a woman veteran be one particular way, subservient in a man's world. It's time to change that.
Absolutely. And it's to think about, how do we break the code? How do we break that code, and where women feels, like, hey, empowered, that I know it may come with some consequences, and have that strength to say, I'm going to stand up, and I'm going to stand up now, because it is so hard to do. As a women veteran myself, I can agree with every one of you on some kind of front, after serving 32 years and doing something like that. So what would your advice be, or how would you tell them, now that we're on the other side of it, so to speak, I mean, the transition part I'm talking about, and it sometimes probably still feel like you're transitioning, but what would you tell a young lady? What would you say to them? What advice would you give to them and say, if I was you, because they know that they've been quiet a long time. What advice would you give to them to say, hey, it's okay for you to be who you are and not to have to be someone else to get along, to move along? How would you address them? Or even your younger self? Even your younger self, how will you address them? Dr. Myers, what will you say?
So I've created an entire business around this to a certain extent, where we're focusing on disrupting leadership. So I loved what Representative Stevenson had to say. And I am going to answer this question from the perspective of personal brand. If we do not show up as the same person at home and at work and with all our other hats that we wear as females, whether that's as a woman or as a girl, we wear so many different hats. We need to stop wearing all the hats and show up as the same person. If we do not show up as the same person, there's dissonance in the energy that we create. And this is all founded on quantum physics. And this is where I put my little nerd hat on. When there's dissonance, friction is created. When friction is created, there's heat, something's ultimately going to break. And that something is either going to be you mentally, you emotionally, or you physically. And so if you do not show up as your whole self in all aspects of your life, you will break. It's just a matter of when. And we need to begin to stand up for ourselves so that we can show up as the same person in all areas.
Thank you. Representative Stevenson?
I like what she had to say. I might join her company. It is really that you've got to find your voice, your authentic self, who you are, and stand there. Like, I've got a line. I can talk to anybody about anything, except, like James Baldwin said, I will not talk to you about my destruction. But other than that, everything is open, and no one can move me from my spot. I know who I am. And when you try to tell me, sometimes I might doubt, but I got a husband of 40 years, kids. My daughter was just trying to coach me last night. And I'm like, when did you become the mother? She's like, Mom, don't let them get you. Don't, I see you're getting disappointed because you can't take care of poor people. And I'm like, okay, I guess I need to be coachable since I taught her that. But you got to know where you stand. If you don't know where you stand, anything and anybody can get you to go anywhere, and you'll look up and you'll be 90 and not done the things you want to do with the one life you have.
Ooh, I heard a woof in the building. So in the background here, thank you, Mel. Mrs. Williams, what says you?
Yes, I'm always on mute, right? I always have a problem with the mute functionality. I don't know what that's about, but I'm really excited about that question because that is that has been a driver all of my career of how is it that you show up, that you're confident in your work, you know, as we push open these doors and experiences that we've never had, you know, how do we position ourselves? I really resonate with authenticity. I think that's a theme that we've all clarified, you know, on authenticity and who I am, authenticity in my leadership. You need to be self-aware, your trigger points, your emotional intelligence. Who am I? There's a lot of work to be done as I think about over my career to become self-aware and confident in who I am. And it's okay, right? It's okay that I'm challenged by certain areas to manage. But if I focus on my strengths, you know, the Gallup strength factors, if I focus on my strengths, then all the data says that I'm going to be more successful than I've ever been focusing on what, you know, my weaknesses or areas that require improvement. The other piece that I like to talk about, which is a theme I talk about with young college students, is courage, right? It takes courage to stand on your own on an issue that you believe in, that you're right about, that you've done your work. And so you know that that is the best choice. You know, in any operation, we have to make decisions and choices, that's the best choice based on the circumstances. And so you have to work on, how do I have courage in this? And sometimes it's getting myself knowledgeable about the work that I'm doing. I understand the policies. I understand the regulations. And I had that experience happen to me multiple times in the military, where I had to stand on what I knew to be the correct method of approaching a particular situation. And it required courage in that, right? And at the end of the day, I had a commander come back and say, you know, I apologize for that, right? I apologize to you because you were correct. And so courage is another aspect of making sure that we're confident. But that whole idea of self-awareness, I think that's the real key to being authentic and confident in who you are and stepping in, right? Stepping and leaning into that.
Mrs. Norris, any thoughts?
I had a funny feeling you might be asking me, but I couldn't hear you. Well, I mean, gosh, I'm not sure I could say it much better. I think the only thing that I would include that I often run into with the veterans that, with women that I serve, with my friends and counterparts, fellow women, as a mother of 3 myself, I think sometimes we get lost in those hats that Dr. Myers talked about that we wear. And it's hard to find who we are again and that level of authenticity that all the other panelists have spoken about. And I know someone wrote, and I apologize, I'm not getting there quick enough in the chat, about peer support. And I think that's a critical piece of this too, is finding people who can be your battle buddy, who can walk next to you, can walk alongside you and support you when maybe you can't figure all those things out or how to move forward. So I think building in a support network is really critical, and also adapting and figuring out who you are and where you want to go next too. So I would just say that in addition.
You bring up a good point. All of you do. You all do. But just that peer support, the people that we are surrounded with, and who do we talk to? Who are our trusted agents? Who can we really, share what we're thinking about, what's on our mind? Because a lot of times, even me as a recent veteran, who do I go talk to? I don't know whether I can talk to you. You won't even know my story. Even with me having a spouse that's a retiree, but me being, a female, a veteran it's a different kind of, narrative, and not necessarily understood. At least I don't think understood. What would you tell? How would you help the environment in which we operate in and work in daily to cultivate an atmosphere of diversity and inclusion with our male counterparts? And it's not that they always are trust me, most of my opportunities came from them, but it was a little unspoken, little fine print there. So I want to ask you, Representative Stevenson, how would you help our male counterparts work that environment to make a better environment for all in the workplace or outside of there?
We first have to get that it's not a woman's problem. It's not a woman vet's problem. Just like racism is not a Black problem. It is a human problem, because we can never, ever reach where we can go unless the whole boat is lifted. So I'm in the House of Representatives. We have 75 Republicans and 25 Dems. I'm a Dem. And I have to work across the aisle to take care of the people in my district. And the first thing I do is I'm curious about who they are and not the label. Same thing. Be curious about what matters to that person. What matters, what's important to them. And you will find common ground on which to take action on. Because most of the time, if we take action on what we agree about, we can move the needle. We don't have to agree on everything. Be curious about that person. And then number 2, be the change you want to see. I can't say I want equality and then hate men. That's ridiculous. In fact, I love men. And I want to be and free to express who I am. So we all have to stretch ourselves. I call it the Dennis Rodman corral. Dennis Rodman used to wear wedding dresses and had all kind of hair color, basketball for those of you who don't know. He played for Chicago Bulls, and he had, before it was popular, his hair was all different colors. And he never followed protocol. And the reporters asked Phil Jackson, why do you let him do that? And Phil Jackson said, I have a Dennis Rodman corral. As long as he doesn't go too far and he gets 15 rebounds a night, I'm good. Be good with who people are and that they're not exactly like you. No one ever will be.
Starts with us. It starts with us. So, Mrs. Norris, question for you. With your experience and your knowledge, what is a major challenge that you see with women veterans when it comes to mental health, physical health, emotional health? Floor is yours.
Yes, ma'am. I think that's a really, probably we could go very far into this, but someone put into the chat a message about violence and abuse. And so, that also plays into mental health concerns. I think, one of the biggest things I see right now when we're talking about research and what's available and challenges is, especially around mental health, our women are more likely than their male counterparts to experience mental health conditions. They're more likely to experience intimate partner violence. They're more likely to experience higher rates of depression, anxiety, life stressors. They have fewer resources than their male counterparts. They're more clinically complex. So when we really talk about this and look at the fact that women veterans are growing, especially in Kentucky and Tennessee, when we look to our sister state, at astronomical rates in comparison to the rest of the country. We're a great place to live. So folks are moving here. So we need to be able to meet those needs as they increase. And I had mentioned too about reproductive mental health. And I can tell you that's a newer area. And that's more than just pregnancy or postpartum. It's all the challenges of a reproductive life cycle, menopause, menstruation, all those things that are very difficult that we don't always talk about. And that providers, when I talk about providers, I think of the VA being historically male oriented, really weren't trained or prepared to provide services for. So I think those are the things that I know we're working towards right now. That are the items that are being researched currently across the country. And it's very promising what's coming out of that. So I know some people asked about research. I'd be happy to answer some of those offline too, if there's anything that I can offer.
Thank you. I have one last one for all of you all. Your queen for the day. What do you see? Where do you see what you want to do to make a difference and for women veterans? Just queen for a day. I'm gonna give you briefly, each one of you to tell me about it. Dr. Myers.
Well, I knew you'd start with me. And this is a great question. And there's so much that I want to do. So, but in one day, all that we can do, I want to, if I had a superpower, I'm going to change it to superpower. I'm queen for the day. I want to identify all of those women veterans, right? And I know Representative Stevenson said that was something. Oh no, it wasn't Representative Stevenson. It was someone that said they want to identify all the women veterans. Maybe it was you, all the women veterans. I want us to have some sort of identification possibility so that we can all come together in a unified way to begin to build that trust amongst each other, to begin to identify who we really are and what we stand for so that we can come together as a whole. And this is a great start for that. I would just use my day to accelerate that because there are all these issues. And I see Dallas saying, there's an issue with trust. There's an issue with trust. And we need to figure out what the root cause of that issue is. And we have the best and the brightest minds in women veterans to be able to figure out what that is and how we can all solve women's veterans issues together.
Thank you. Mrs. Wills.
Thank you. I'm sorry to regress, but I just have to, before I answer that question, I just have to add to a couple things that Representative Stevens said about diversity. Would that be okay? I just have to
Absolutely.
add one comment.
Sure.
Because she was so on point with the racism is a human problem, and that the idea of cultivating an atmosphere of diversity, inclusion, diversity and inclusion is a consequence of action, right? It's a consequence of what we're doing together. But in order for that the belonging to happen, people have to get educated about history, right? History tells a true story that you can't deny, right? And that brings a reality to all of us that, well, it's not something that someone dreamed up that, racism exists or inequity exists. Educating yourself about the world and about the world's people really helps you understand a lot about why diversity, inclusion, and belonging is so powerful. So I just wanted to add that, right, to what Representative Stevens said, and that men, we want men to be allies, right, in this. And this idea that allyship means that you don't have to, we're not saying you agree with everything that's going on with individuals. What we're saying is, if it were you, would you want to be treated like this? Right? It's equity for all. And so if we can get that idea, that ideology into a mindset, that is what really makes the difference, right? I don't have to agree, but I have to think, well, if I were being treated like that, would I want to be treated like that, right? And it changes the paradigm. But so going back to the question of queen for the day, I love the superpower. Like, I'm a Wonder Woman fan. Like, that's like awesome, Dr. Myers, Aaron, if I could call you Aaron. And I always say, Stephen Biko said that the mind is a terrible thing to waste, right? And that's a Negro College Fund, one of the nonprofits as well. And if I had a queen for a day, because I have had to learn through a lot of trial and error about all that was available to me as a veteran and how to maximize those resources and apply those to the situations, problems, or opportunities that are before me. And if I was queen for a day, I would fill every woman veteran with those resources. Like, it's like their shield, like a superpower of resources that they can go to at any moment, whether it's a mental health issue, a health issue. Codependency is a real issue for women in general and women veterans, right? And knowing where to go, education and benefits, and that would be my charge, because that's my life work too, is building the capacity of people and organizations. Because women they flounder all the time with where do I find this information? I have an experience. I'm coming to Kentucky. I'm from Michigan originally. And when I first moved to Kentucky, the first thing I did was sought out veterans, right? My family, my veteran family, my National Guard family in Frankfort, the Kentucky Department of Veteran Affairs. I actually went to see them to say, I need some help with a job search and resources. So, I mean, that would be my charge for the day. I mean, and they would just have little pockets. They could just pull it all out and like, I'm ready, right? It's like, let's go, right? So I think we need to do a better job of that and put some resources into it in a very comprehensive way, so it doesn't feel segmented and misaligned, right? All that they need to know. Yeah, that would be my charge.
Awesome. Mrs. Norris.
Well, I love that charge. I think I think if I had a superpower and could put my Queen for the Day hat on, I would want to build a level of connectedness. I just feel that there is an opportunity missed as our women are transitioning out of service and moving towards civilian life. And like in my mind, I envision if I knew I was going to Louisville, I would want to have the names and phone numbers and emails of some women veterans who have done it before and are there, who would meet me for coffee, who would sit down and say, here's the water company and the best people and all the stresses of childcare and all the other things that come with life and trying to transition. And I just feel as though sometimes we make it more difficult than it needs to be. And really just building a level of connectedness right out the gate would help so many people so quickly. Yes, a meetup group for women veterans. I love that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Stacey, can I chime in on that? Thank you for the childcare option at the VA now. Thank you, whatever you did to create that. Can't tell you how many times during COVID I got turned away because I had to drag a child. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative Stevenson.
You know, if I were a queen for a day, I would make it so that 100 years from now, when they have another pandemic and they thrive and they're better because they're prepared, they would trace it back to women veterans. They would trace it back to the actions we take today. And I would add, I want us, if we could all just live inside a context of love and kindness, a lot would be accomplished. Right now, there's a lot of hate and stuff going on that just stops us. I'm a Star Trek fan. I love Picard, Jean-Luc Picard, Make It So, #1, Engage. And then the earlier Star Trek, when they had Lieutenant Houlihan, I can't think of her name, but she was the only Black on that ship. Star Trek was way ahead of its time in the 60s when they were talking about love can come in any shape or form. We can be the Star Trek for the next pandemic. We can demonstrate everything that we want them to be. And women veterans are uniquely qualified to make that difference. We tolerate people sleeping with snow as a blanket. We tolerate children being hungry. And we tolerate children being abused in the child custody system. Queen for a day, I would get us all together and use my Star Trek Borg powers and create a world that works for all people. Put 5 women veterans in a room and we'll have world peace. It's as simple as that.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you. And I know Addie is taking a lot of notes and seeing what we can pull from what you share with us today, a page from your books on some things that we can put in play here at KDVA with our Women Veterans Program. Well, we're going to go to the chat box and see if we have any questions or anyone has anything for you all before we roll this up. So we're coming up close to the hour, but we're not going to worry about the time as much as we want to make sure we address any questions, okay?
Deputy, I'm not seeing any questions that haven't been answered, but there's an awful lot of good information, other resources, some networking going on, and some very good comments that kind of flesh out some of the things that have been said. When this session ends in a little while, I'm going to leave it up for a little bit so you can read through these chats if you'd like to.
Okay, very nice. Also, I did see something about a young lady asking about volunteer opportunities, just recently retired or separated from the Marines. So if you all think of some good volunteer opportunities for her or any of us, let's just take this opportunity to do so. I'll also ask the panelists, if you have any good information as far as your links, put it in. I did look at your website, Dr. Myers, and actually I looked at all of you all, all of you all. You are definitely a dynamic bunch of ladies. And we are so, so happy that you joined us today and just being able to share your thoughts on this topic as just the beginning of many more conversations that we will have, or included in other conversations that we will have. Thank you so much for that. Ladies, any last words before I close out and I turn it over back to Miss Addie? Okay.
Yes, I do. I have one last word.
Okay.
This is Grace.
Okay.
There's some work there's some work to do with planning and goal setting. And there's a thought that I want to leave with the women veterans here. And it's to think of planning windows in these 5-year segments. So you can look back and you can reflect. And it's like, you know, it's like adjusting for fire, right? It's like you know, until you fire for effect, right? It's this idea that we need to take a reflection time to see where we're at, so that then we can continue to move forward. And if we live to be 80 years old, if we have the blessing to live until we're 80, you think about how many 5-year segments and 5-year opportunities that you really have to set your goals, to achieve what it is that you desire in life, whether that is family, children, marriage, education. And you got about, 16 of those, depending on how old you are now, right? And when you start over a lifetime. And I'm just going back from birth. So you can't even consider, the first 15, the first 20. And it's not a lot of time. And so I just like to leave that with women, because it's some work that I do in terms of where am I going to be in the next 5 years, right? And how do I reach out to the resources and connections that I need to get there? Just a thought.
Thank you, Mel. Okay, ladies, you're awesome. Thank you so much. Really good to see you all. Addie, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Soft applause for all our panelists. Thank you. Great job. And our moderator, she is the bomb, Miss DC Knoll. Thank you. So I did write down several of the organizations that I want to kind of pinpoint here. And sorry if I don't catch everybody. Military Sisterhood Initiative, Challenge of America, Miss Heather French Henry, former KDVA and Miss America was on here. Lady Veterans Connect, Operation Job Ready Vets, Patriot Link, Women Veterans Resource Center. So all these people, they're great resources, and we just need to connect. And if you have an idea, if you want to just chat, coffee with tea, whatever, however we can get together, it just takes, a phone call for people to get together. That's all I'm saying. So keep that in mind. You can come through me, or, hopefully you all can check out our website, join on my community, just register on there, and you'll get our events, upcoming events and information. So our website is new and revamped, so please take a look at that. Just want to go through this upcoming events real quick. April 23rd, we have the Run, Walk, Stroll, and our homeless program coordinator, Miss Eileen Ward, is responsible for that, and she does a great job with our homeless veterans, and she's raising money to continue to support. I hear her every day, all day, helping our homeless veterans, and she's just outstanding human being. Save the date, June 3rd, I have a women's conference at the Marriott in Lexington. And then we have in August, the KDVA State Conference. And all these things is to bring awareness to women veterans, whether they're issues, whether it's honoring them, or just having fun. But it is our job to meet up with as many people as possible, so that we can listen in and see how we can improve what's already out there for our women veterans. So I just wanted to say that real quick. So again, visit the website, sign up so you can be on our email list. I got a minute or so for the commissioner. So Commissioner Whitney Allen, do you have any last words?
Yes, thank you all for tuning in. Special thanks to the panelists for your wonderful insight and sharing your stories. Special thanks to Addie, Lynn, Jared, John, Dwayne, Al, Kirk, and all of you who made this a great event. I will conclude this with, special thanks for tuning in, General Henry Huntley, Executive Director for State, Local, and International Engagement from the Office of Intergovernmental Affairs from the Department of Veteran Affairs. It's a lot of title, but General Huntley, retired, is a great advocate. Special shout out to the Fort Commission of KDVA, the Honorable Head of French Henry. Thank you for tuning in as well. The last thing I would say before I lose the audience is that the panelists will be KDVA's first initiation class of the KDVA Ambassador Program. Because of their great work and all of the contribution that they do into their community and in their specific areas and their contribution to KDVA, they will be considered our first ambassadors, and we will recognize them at the Women's Veterans Conference in June. So on that, again, thank you all for tuning in. We're going to take this message forward and make actions happen. Back to you, Addie. Thank you.
Again, thank you for joining. I appreciate panelists. I'll send you whatever kind of notes or reflection items and different things and send it all to you all. I appreciate your time. And thank you everyone for joining in today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Addie.
I'm Miss
Great
Phyllis,
job.
Lady Veterans Connect. I'm Miss Phyllis.
Patty, great
And
job.
Shanda, my niece, and
Take care,
mental
Lynn.
health. Hi, girl. Love you.